Views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good morning and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ Ferry, and my co-host Chip Camara will be a little late. He's down at Government Center tearing the city a new one. He's talking to the insurance board about the fact that they're trying to again increase the costs and provide fewer benefits to the retirees of the city of Fall River. But on to some of the most recent news. As we know, Amazon is proposing a deal here in Fall River, and the city has a TIF agreement that they're sending out. Now, there's a couple of issues in it, and one of them is me, because I decided to contact Amazon directly, and I'm being vilified for that. And as I've told many people in the city, if you're going to crucify me, give me the wood. And that's the way that works. But I had problems with the TIF, and I spoke briefly on them last week. And one of the problems that I had with the TIF was the fact that there are no guarantees in there for the city of Fall River, or Freetown for that fact. There are no job guarantees, and there were no use of local contractors. So I spoke with Mike Grella from Amazon, the Vice President of Economic Development for Amazon.com. And we went over in detail why there were none of that in the TIF. My problem wasn't so much why Amazon didn't agree to it as much as why Ken Fiola and the mayor didn't argue for them. And I understand Amazon's demographics. Currently, there is no deal. Understand this, people of Fall River. There is no deal with Amazon. This is still in the negotiation stage. Amazon is still doing its due diligence for this project. And nobody is against Amazon coming to Fall River. As a matter of fact, we would welcome them with open arms. But to give them the kitchen sink and get nothing in return is where I have a problem. One of the big things that's going on is the fact that Ken Fiola insisted with the people at the TIF board and with members of the city council, and several members of the city council also told me that it was illegal to put into the TIF a requirement, quotas, or a number of jobs dedicated to the people of Fall River or the people of Freetown. That is an absolute falsehood. I spoke with the Massachusetts Office of Business Development, which oversees the EID program and TIF programs. And they said very clearly it is not unheard of and is actually very common for a city or a town to put in percentages or employment quotas for their cities and towns. So again, this was misinformation provided by the administration and by the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction. Further, it is found out that there are no guarantees or negotiations for local procurement. The TIF actually says in it that they will recommend or they will encourage the use of local contractors. Encouragement's a wonderful thing. I encourage you to get a job. I encourage you to clean your house. I encourage you to complete your education. That's wonderful. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that's all it says in the TIF. We're going to encourage them to use local providers. They also says that they are going to they're going to encourage the use of the workforce development program here in Fall River to offer jobs to the Fall River area. So again, they're going to encourage the use of it. They're going to present that. Well, I spoke with Mike Grella very clearly on it and our concerns, or my concerns. I don't represent anyone in this matter. I represented myself. And he said very clearly, I will direct our Human Resources Office to put together a job fair for Fall River and Freetown residents and offer them every opportunity to come forward and get employment if they desire it. Mike Grella also said that he is sending to Ken Fiola immediately via email the procurement forms necessary should this deal go forward for local contractors and businesses to use to actually work with Amazon on developing this program. The other big concern I have is that the letter of intent sent from Amazon to the city of Fall River does not say they're going to buy a warehouse. It says that it is their intent to lease a 1 million square foot warehouse. Now, does lease mean they won't buy it? No. But it is their intent to lease. Now, remember, when you lease something, you don't necessarily have roots there. So we have to look at that. And they have to meet the 1,000 job quota by June 30th, 2019. That's 5 years from now. And again, no guarantees that they're going to be Fall River people. As a matter of fact, if Amazon wanted, they could move 500 people from Seattle to Fall River to work in the warehouse. Also, it's been presented that it's going to be $35,000 a year that you're paid. Another falsehood. You're actually going to be paid $10 to $12 an hour as a warehouse worker. There will be some people who make more, who are supervisors, managerial, and whatnot. And it says in the letter of intent, it is their intent to offer an average wage of $35,000. And again, Amazon offers $10 to $12 an hour for the warehouse workers. Their lot will hold 2,400 parking spaces because they expect to hire hundreds of people seasonally for Christmas, and the different, back to school periods and whatnot, because Amazon does a huge retail business on the internet using those, during those periods, just like every other business does. So these are the things we have to look at. Now let's look at the crucifixion of C.J. Ferry. And it looks like my co-host is finally back from his mission at Government Center. But I went on WSAR yesterday, and Faust Fiore says that the mayor has answered more questions directly than I have. Faust, you're full of it. Every time I went to answer a question, you cut me off. People were very, very clearly see that Faust and Rick Oliveira don't want to hear opposing sides. Is it right that we sell Fall River short? Are we going to sell ourselves for pennies? This is why up in Boston they laugh at us. This is why they say, you don't want to pay for it? Go to Fall River. They'll take anything. We're begging. And I know we need jobs. And I understand that. But let's have it be honest. How come when anyone in this city questions windows or contracts and raises, you're questioning government because you have a right to. But the minute you question a company or question Ken Fiola or the administration about the lies that they're presenting to us, and you confirm it with the company and you get the truth from the company and that you don't get from the city administration, you're a naysayer. You're a troublemaker, and you're going to cause this business to go away. If you want to blame me if Amazon doesn't come here, knock yourself out. Crucify me. I'll set the cross up at the top of President Avenue. But you know what? People have the right to know. They have the right to know what is happening. And the people of Freetown are getting a town meeting where they get to express their concerns. But the mayor, Ken Fiola, and Joe Camara decided, we don't want to hear what the citizens have to say because they're irrelevant. So we're going to have a special meeting where citizens' input time is not allowed. So again, why do you have to shotgun this through? Because we don't want to hear anything from the people that want to ask questions. They don't want to answer the questions why. So with that, Chip, welcome to the show.
TJ, it's good to be here. I'm sorry I'm late, but
you had good reason.
Obviously, I had to be at Government Center again, dealing with healthcare issues and misappropriation again of funds and dealing with how the city spends its money improperly. But to get back to it, I'm glad you got to say your piece. You were quashed by the radio people. Faust would not allow you and that's one of the problems that, and one of the reasons that I don't normally call into these shows, because what happens is they They allow you to speak for a few minutes, and if you're making a point that they don't like, they shut you off, and then they editorialize for the next half hour, and you don't get to rebut. You know, I normally say if you want to talk and debate with me, bring me on the show, and so I can have a microphone, and you can't stop me from getting at least my position known. But as far as Amazon's concerned, look, I mean, doth protest too much. These people are making a big issue, like you or I or even they will have any kind of weight in the decision that Amazon makes. The reality is Amazon is going to make a business decision. It's not going to be predicated on what Kenny Fiola says. It's not going to be predicated on what you say or what I say. It's going to be predicated on the best deal they can make, and they're looking to get away with as little cost to them as possible. So if Fall River does get Amazon, it proves we sold ourselves cheap, because they're going to go where they can get the best deal. I mean, businesses are about making money. So if they go, well, if we go to Stoughton, we have to pay those people $45,000, not $35,000, and they're not going to give us as much as a break on a TIF, so we're going to go to Fall River. In reality, if we get Amazon, it proves our point that the fact is we didn't get enough guarantees. Nobody's saying that we shouldn't try to get Amazon, but if you're going to give them everything, get something. We can't have words that say we encourage people to get Fall River contractors for the building phase. We encourage them to hire Fall River workers. It is legal and it is appropriate to have guarantees of at least some jobs going to people in Fall River. Because what do we say if, when all is said and done, we've got like 10% of the people in it that are from Fall River? What are we going to say? Oh, gee, you know, well, at least we got 10%. And when then Amazon picks up and gets a deal somewhere else and leaves, oh, well, and that's the problem. The problem is, look, do we need jobs? Absolutely. You know, that's why even the people, there are people who oppose the casino because of the gambling aspect, but, it's always my position. That's also being in favor of gambling, because I think anybody that's anything that requires you to be 21 years old and be an adult, if you want to spend your money that way, that's your prerogative, whether it be a strip joint or, and I don't go to those, even though I know that some of our elected officials do, and those shall be remain nameless at this point.
But we have pictures.
Yeah, we have pictures, yeah. My thing is always, if they require, if you're an adult and you're spending your own money, why, who am I to tell you not to gamble or not to get a lot of dollar bills? So, but that's just my position. You can be opposed to it, and you're entitled to that opinion. I just don't see why, if it doesn't affect me, you're not forcing me to go, you're not forcing me to gamble. But it gets back to the issue of, we need jobs, and my position is I don't care what they bring in. If it's legal and it pays money and has benefits and will employ Fall River people, I'm in favor of it.
And so am I. I don't have a problem with Amazon coming here. I have a problem with the fact that we're lied to. And I was trying to give direct answers on WSAI yesterday to Faust Fiore and Alex Stylos, and I was shut off. They kept talking over me, and they kept, blah, 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 blah. The mayor has answered more questions honestly than you have. I've never heard an honest word come out of the mayor's mouth in the past, I don't know how many months. And the worst part about it is that, they turn around and they talk about you on the air as if you don't exist. And as a public figure, you have to expect that. But they bring Kenny Fiola on the air, and you give him all the time in the world to talk, and he just spouting the same lies. He says it's in the TIF. Well, where's the TIF? Well, the Herald News published it. Why didn't you publish it? You're the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction. I'm not. The Herald News isn't. And then I went looking for it on the Herald News site, because I have a copy of my own, and it's not there. So how can people say it's in the TIF? And he knew that, and so he said it's in the TIF. No, it's not. And I could read it verbatim, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Well, that was such a coup. Why didn't he? If I was Kenny Fiola, and based on his past performances or lack thereof, I would be walking around with that TIF stapled to my forehead so
I
I
know.
could show off. Oh, look at the TIF that I negotiated. Look at the jobs I'm bringing to Fall River. I mean, why would he appear on a radio show when he knows what he's going to be there for and not have documentation?
And you know, the question is, too, why did the mayor, Ken Fiola, and Joe Camara get together and say, we're going to shoot this right through, so we're going to have a special meeting next Thursday? Freetown doesn't even meet till next Wednesday, a week today, to discuss this. And their citizens are going to be able to discuss it. But Fall River people can't talk about it because
the people of Fall River don't count.
That's right.
And that's the reality. And it's ironic because I'll segue into what I was having a meeting about. The city is saving $4 million on the transition of the retiree, just the retirees, to a different prescription drug plan. $4 million.
Wow. Wow.
And they're going to save an additional $2 million with the savings on the overall plan for active and retirees. But to show you how irrelevant that our government thinks that our citizens are, you'll remember a month or so ago I was in front of the council with an individual whose 80-year-old mother needed a prescription, and this change required him to now pay $1,650 for a 3-month supply that he was paying $35 for under the old plan, which, that's right, I wasn't stuttering, $1,650. And the people who are active employees still have that prescription plan. So the segment of the population that has the least ability to pay is now having all kinds of problems, and that was what my meeting was about this morning. And I said that the city has to fix this. And the city's saying, well, it's not our fault, it's Blue Cross's fault. But the fact is, there has to be some compassion for the people who are on fixed incomes who have very low pensions, and there's none. Ironically enough, on our way up here, I got a call from a city councilor just about that. And she said to me, I was at a veterans function yesterday with the mayor, and the mayor got up and said, we don't only care about our veterans on Veterans Day, we care about our veterans 365 days a year. Then after the speeches were over, she said an elderly Korean War veteran with a tattered Korean War hat came up and almost brought her to tears, saying how he couldn't get his medications, his diabetes medications, because of the federal restrictions on shipping or some. Well, again, there's an issue, and these issues were not brought forth when we negotiated these things, and that's why I was up there dealing with these things now, because the city has to fix it. We have an 80-year-old woman with Alzheimer's whose son is now has to pay, $1,600 instead of $30. Now we have this gentleman who can't get his medication at a lower rate through the mail, which is why you normally take mail order. All these problems are endemic to one issue. Nobody in the city government cares about the people of Fall River. All they care about is money. All they saw was by doing this, they were going to save $4 million. And then another 2 from the other changes, so we have $6 million. And what are we going to do with that $6 million after we take it out of the pockets of the people who have to pay more taxes, more fees, and are on fixed incomes? 2/3 of it, $4 million. We're going to use it to pay salaries, to plug up the school gap, which is not what that kind of money is for. That is not money that you get every year. It's not tax money. It's money that you picked from somebody's pocket. What happens next year when the costs of everything goes up and you get 8 or 9% less because of the rise in healthcare costs? What we have to cut more benefits, health benefits. It's reprehensible.
Well, suck it up, Chip.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's coming down from the 6th floor.
Yeah.
That's the mayor's office. Suck it up. Suck it up. Everyone's got to cut costs. Okay, we got to cut costs. We got to educate the children. You're over 65. You're on your way out the door. I mean, that seems to be the attitude. I mean, I don't believe that, but I mean, that seems to truly be the attitude.
Well, that's the thing, and there are some and that's the ironic part. It shows the total insensitivity, because we have retirees, of course. Firefighters, police officers can retire at 55 if they have the years in 32. But the people who retire before 65, who are mandated by law to go into Medicare, stay on the city plan. And the city plan, they're getting their drugs the same way. They're still getting that. So now you've actually taken the people with the least amount of ability to pay and made what they call in the healthcare industry an adverse selection pool. You've created them, you've made it harder on them to survive, and those are the people that can afford it the least. And to me, as I said, that's unconscionable, it's reprehensible, and the city is now, of course, we're in the circle. The city's blaming Blue Cross is blaming the federal government doesn't care about anybody anyway, and the reality is that we get back to the core issue. So the meeting today ended with the city saying, okay, we're going to deal with this issue. We are going to talk about how to fix this for some of these people that are affected. But it shouldn't take a threat to go before the city council. It shouldn't take me going to a meeting and raising holy hell about these issues. You gotta know. I mean, you don't have to be Einstein to figure out that if you've shifted $4 million worth of the costs over to a segment of the healthcare population, that it's not going to mean they're going to have a lot of problems paying. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is quantum physics, but to me, it's not. When you tell me that, hey, we used to pay $150 for this thing, and now we're going to make $1 million, not by negotiating better fees for that procedure, but by making you pay $900 more for that procedure. It makes me $900 poorer.
Well, Darwin had a thing called natural selection. He came up with that. Well, the Flanagan administration came up with financial selection. If you can't pay for it, drop dead. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. If you can't pay for it, drop dead.
And ironically enough, CJ, that you said that, because when we were discussing the recall, and he actually said in one of his radio interviews on WSAR, we could probably pull it from the podcast, he actually said that people have to expect to have their taxes and fees increase because that's just the way it is. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. We had mayors that went years without raising taxes. We just had a guy who was vilified in his run for the governor of Rhode Island, Fung, because he raised taxes 3 years in a row. Now this guy's raised it 5 years in a row, and fees. So and it's like, why do we have to expect to pay all the bills, and you have no obligation to run government effectively? You can give all your friends pay raises. Your corporation counsel can buy all the shoes she wants with their pay raises, but we have to continue to keep paying and funding. It's I don't know. It's just me.
It's because the people of Fall River just don't want change, or they're, I'm going to get vilified for this, so get another cross out. Or maybe they're just too stupid or too obtuse to realize that if you keep voting the same thing over and over again and nothing changes, that's the definition of insanity. I mean, and truly, that's where we're at here in Fall River. We're going insane. And I have a problem because here's the mayor saying, oh, we're going to apply for another SAFER grant. They were already told, Fall River, you're not getting one. You are not getting one. What part of you're not getting one don't you understand? Do they need to say the Japanese for you? And now you got another kick in the pants. The state said, the heck with your $1 million for fire and police, because we don't have it. We're $325 million short in the public safety budget. So all of those are put on hold. And that was money you had already spent before you even got it.
And that's the absurdity of this government. I mean, how can anybody, listen to this guy saying that he's running the city effectively? His answer is we put in for another SAFER grant. What is wrong with you? A SAFER grant is a grant, and it ends just like the last one did. You can't continue it is to supplement, not subsidize budgets. How many times did, I mean, I don't know. I guess they didn't have any stove in your house when you grew up, because based on the way you run this government, you're a kid that wouldn't learn the first time he burnt his hand on the stove. You wouldn't have any hands anymore, because I don't know what's going on, but apparently you don't learn very much, because the congressional delegation wrote you a letter and said, hey, dummy, we gave you 4 years to prepare to lose this grant, and you didn't do a damn thing. So I don't know. This is good government?
No, this is called the welfare mentality. And it's become so prevalent in the city of Fall River that it is now part of our government. We can't exist without it. And you can't call anyone in city government anything wrong. You cannot say you expect, I'm going to swear now, big swear, you expect accountability. Oh my God, oh God. Was there an earthquake? You expect accountability. All right, God forbid you expect people to prove themselves, okay? Like grants given to the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction, which says you need to produce 75 jobs this year. We don't care if you lose 5,000 as long as you produce the 75, okay? Come on, let's be real. We need accountability. We don't need bull.
No, you're right. And like I said, they're gross insensitivity. It's funny, the city council who called me told me that she was almost moved to tears by this Korean War vet, and I said, well, welcome to my world. I get one call, at least one call a week, and sometimes more, from people who are literally on the verge of, of tears because they can't pay for their medications. And they don't have it. I've got one of the retirees is a close friend of mine. He's a retired district chief that's 95 years old.
Wow.
And his pension is minuscule now because
back then there wasn't a high
when he
pay.
retired, even at 65, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So a district chief was probably making less than a secretary, a lot less than a secretary is today, and he has increases in his health care. This man fought in the Second World War. He landed on D-Day. He was part of the D-Day invasion. And I look at this guy, and he's telling me how he can't afford his medications. And he asks me, didn't we give up pay raises and stuff to get good health care? Isn't this why we took these jobs, so we could have a decent retirement and decent health care, and we worked for less than other people, and we gave up things? We weren't given good health care. We bought it by giving up pay raises and things. And if I'm fired up today, it's because of that. When I get there and I listen to these people, and I have to go to a meeting tomorrow, the retirees, and listen to this again, and believe me, when I normally don't personalize things, but this gets real personal with me because I see the faces of the people that are being hurt.
Well, now I'm going to throw a log on your fire, okay? Do you remember back in the debates between Mayor Flanagan and Joe Cavallo, a woman went up on stage and was demanding that they receive the proper respect for their son, which was Gamache?
Yes.
And the mayor said he will pay for that park bench out of his own money. Guess what? The bench still hasn't happened. And you ready for the real kicker? He was at Kennedy Park yesterday at the celebration of a park bench in memorial for another dead soldier, and the family paid for it. And this is how Fall River treats its veterans.
But remember, 365, December 16th, remember, vote yes to recall.
Thanks for watching. You have a great day, and we're coming back to you on Friday.
With a special guest, look in.